So here are our notes for today. That means make sure your phones are completely away. We want to make sure we got this, and some of you guys are like, wow, I know this, Miss Kim, we learned this a while ago. But we want to make sure, because equations, even with our Algebra 1 classes right now, our biggest struggle, even still, even in semester 2, is we didn't master this unit 2, and it follows you all throughout. So that's why we're taking time to make sure you guys know this stuff. So for review, the first thing, this is just review, is variable. Which one of these, you can raise your hand and tell me which one of those for a brain buck would be a variable? Would be the 5, the x, or the 4? Younger. The x, right? So variable is a letter that represents a value. So write that down. This should be review. A letter that represents a value. I'm going to color this red to show that this is my variable. Coefficient. Kamari, which one is my coefficient out of 5 and 4? 5, right? So coworker coefficient is the number attached to a letter. And technically it's a number attached or multiplied. And then that constant nag, so remember they're on a double date, there's always that constant nag, the guy who's trying to intervene and trying to get on that date right here, is the 4. So it's a number without a variable. So this would be my constant. So this is just a review from your first lesson of the year, actually. So in case you weren't here you go. So now we're going to get into one-step equations. And so you already did the first part. So to undo addition, or the inverse of addition, is what? So right on your page. Subtraction, or subtract. To undo addition or subtraction, we add. To undo multiplication, we divide. And to undo division, we multiply. So all we do for one-step equations is the opposite. And so basically right here, all they're saying is what plus 5 equals 30. What would I need to add to 5 to get 30? 25, right? And so one step, it's easy to just figure out what this number has to be in order for it to be correct. But when we get into two-step and multi-step, we always just use the inverse. So when we see an equal sign, every single time, draw a little river. So go through all your equal signs and draw a river. And the only way, X just wants to be alone. He doesn't want anyone attached to him. He doesn't want anyone next to him. He just wants to be alone. And so in order to make that happen, we need to use the inverse. We need to trick that guy. So what's the opposite of plus 5? Minus 5. So we subtract 5 on each side of the river, like that. And Keandra said that it ends up being 25. That's my answer. So this may seem simple right now, but we want to make sure we're like 100% great with one-step equations. So when we get to those multi-step, they're easy for us. What about right here? What's the opposite of subtracting 10? Add 10. So we do it to both sides of the equal sign. And I end up getting A equals 22. Now when 5 and k are together, they're so close, they're being multiplied. And so they're so close, 5 is attached to k. How do we separate them? What's the opposite of multiplying? Divide them out, right? So in order to get rid of that 5, k just wants to be alone, we got to divide them out. And what is 35 divided by 5? 7. And last one, B, and what's this line mean? Divided by. So that line means divided by 3 equals 10. And the opposite of dividing is multiplying. So I'm going to multiply 3 to both sides. What that does is it gets rid of this 3. So B can be alone. And 10 times 3 is 30. Last one I'm going to add at the end. So just add example 5. You can add it wherever. I'm going to put it right here. You can write it on the back if you want. So example 5, I'm going to make one more up and I'll explain why. 3/4 x equals 12. 3/4 x equals 12. And so see how that fraction is being multiplied by x? The only way to get rid of a fraction, they're a little more tricky, is I multiply by its reciprocal. Can anyone for a brain bug tell me what does reciprocal mean? Come on. Or like, what's the reciprocal of this fraction? 4/3. We flip it, right? And so when we multiply, when it's multiplied by that x, they're a little more tricky, right? Like we need to do a couple tricks to get that guy alone. And so what we do is we multiply by its reciprocal, which is 4/3. And so in your calculator, I'm going to hand out calculators. I want you guys to just type in 12 times 4/3. Does everyone know how to get a fraction in your calculator? What button we press? ND. So you're going to press ND, and that will get you that fraction. And so you're going to multiply 12 times 4/3. And so actually the fractions and these sort of things are what you're going to be probably dealing with the most. So multiply 12 times 4/3. And to get that fraction, you just press ND. Does everyone see how we do this in your calculator? This gets rid of that. And you end up getting, what do you end up getting?
16.
16. Does anyone have any questions on how to type that into your calculator? Okay. Last part of this is just making sure our work is checked. And so in this class, we're also going to be focusing a lot on, like, remember, most of your tests are multiple choice. Even your SATs, your ACTs, if you're going to college, things like that, are all multiple choice. And so we're going to be focusing on plug it in, plug it in. And so I'm going to be singing that all the time. And so I don't need you to do this on every single question, but when you're checking your work and you're doing a test or a quiz, I always want to see you plugging in your answer to make sure it makes sense. And so what I mean by that, instead of writing X up here, I'm going to write my answer, 25. So you're going to put, instead of X, you're putting 25. There we go. Plus 5. And you want to make sure it's correct. And this will make more sense when we actually do bigger multi-step questions to make sure they're correct. Is 25 plus 5 30?
Yes.
Yep, so I know I got it right. So I'm plugging this number in brackets. Now let's plug in this one, 22 minus 10. Does that equal 12?
Yes.
Perfect. Does everyone see what I'm doing up here? I'm just plugging in my answer. 5, and that means just times 7. Does that equal 35? Yes. And then instead of B, I'm going to put 30. 30 divided by 3. Does that equal 10? Perfect. And then write this in your calculator, 3/4 times 16. When you type that into ND and type it into your calculator, do you end up getting 12?
Yes.
Yep, so you know it's correct. And so I don't need you to do that every single time you do it, but especially on tests and quizzes where they give you multiple choice questions, plug it in and just make sure it's correct. Does that make sense? Okay, so